Call your sponsor.
Call you sponsor.
Call you sponsor.
Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor. Call your sponsor.
Oh, I love that. Not contingent on being recognized, right? Because I think, if I think that that's maybe at the core is this recognition thing,
Right.
you know, and maybe it is that's the reflection that I'm seeing is that I just need to recognize myself. You know, I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's what they say is the thing with, they talk about this in ACA a lot, is that when I've grown up in a home where there was really no terra firma underneath me that I could like count on because everything kept shifting and changing and I had to contort myself to adjust to situations, that it really is difficult to have a sense of anchorage within myself and safety within myself. So one characteristic of people in ACA is that they're looking for the reflection outside of them that it's okay, that it's safe, that all of these things. And this has been my thing this week, the exact same thing of I'm never going to get the safety out there. Where can I have the anchor within me? Where can I have the safety within me and that be enough and that be content because it's not going to show up on the outside. And if I look at it in this way where all the actors are on the stage, right? And it's a virtual enactment of something to help me get that safety within myself. So a situation has arisen where I'm being given the opportunity to cultivate the safety within myself. It looks like everyone's doing it wrong, but really it's this amazing opportunity to go, oh yeah, they're supposed to do it wrong. Thank you for doing it wrong. I need to go within and get my own anchorage and then, you know, pretty much give up, you know, middle fingers to everyone else, not so aggressively, but you know what I mean, as to their opinion.
I love the pedestal. I just was like connecting a dot. I love when you talk about you could put me on if you put me on a pedestal, I'm just going to fall. It's like, it's that same energy of the other thing that I hear you say is, people are supposed to let me down to remind me that they're not my higher power. You know, it's kind of has that same.
Those two go together. That's a good, I love that.
Yeah. And that I think, you know, is like, oh, right. Because what happens for me is there's subtle shifts where the person, place, or thing becomes the higher power. And then I get into this whole story of when this happens, then, you know, and I get so wrapped up in that story that I'm not necessarily present or in touch with my higher self or a higher power for that matter, because it's shifted to something outside of me.
Yes. Oh my God. This has been my work this year. And it's the drive to the grocery store with the 20-foot embankments on either side, is that I finally recognize the story that I tell myself, when this happens, then it all goes downhill and it's swirling in a toilet. And it's like, wait, I'm the one narrating this story. Why am I having it all go down in a toilet? And I can't remember, it's some profound person that we'll have on the podcast at some point that said, why wouldn't I narrate the story of it working out amazing? Why isn't that an option?
I think that's Mel Robbins, right? What if it all worked out?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yes. It's interesting. I'm drinking tea and, you know, some of the tea bags have these things and it's literally, I'm looking at it. It says, relate to your greatness and not your weakness, where I actually think humility is relating to both. It's like having, like you talk about, having all the emotions sit at the boardroom table, right? And so it's like all of me. It's not like not focusing on either. It's just saying this is all of me and I'm okay with it, you know?
Right. It's putting all the ornaments on the tree.
Mm,
The good,
oof.
the bad, all of it. Just putting it all up there and going, this is my tree. I think it's beautiful. And yeah, y'all judge what you want and worry about your own trees, honestly.
And what was this? What was the story again? It was like the guy. What was the story again? It was the guy who left his wife or something, or had an affair.
The
The ornament.
Yeah, the ornament came in the mail that said baby's first Christmas. And her husband had recently left her, and their kids were like 8 and 9 years old.
Mm.
So she realized that, he had left her to go have a baby with another woman. Like the timing was like he had to have gotten her pregnant while they were still together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then she said that she put that ornament on her
On
tree,
the tree. Yeah.
for the last 15 years. And everyone was like, what? Why did you do that to yourself? And she was like, because that's the truth of what I'm living.
Wow. So here's the thing. I wonder what is the connection between humility and shame? And is there a connection? Because I am just, this is just coming to me right now, I want to hide some things. I don't want to share all of it because I only, it's the actor, right? The actor has the stage. I want to show only my strengths. I only want to show what I think you need to see of me so that, whatever my theme song's like, they won't like me. So everything about me is like, you're going to like me, Yeah, exactly. It's perfectly curated, calculated. It's, the karate chop, whatever those things are. And so it's almost like, because shame for me is like also the hiding, right? It's like, I'm bad or I'm, and so don't share that, but the humility is like knowing and accepting and loving every bit and nook and cranny, and then just showing up to the table, which is it's still not something that I am jonesing for. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, I today cannot correlate the humility and shame. But I can correlate vulnerability and shame. And I feel like vulnerability is the opposite of shame.
Yeah.
And that when I am willing to be vulnerable and expose everything on the tree because I can love it and whatever anyone else thinks about it is their own business. And the truth is they're not thinking about it. That's the other part. No one's thinking about it. That's when I have true freedom. And I don't know how the humility would show up in that yet.
I love this thing of like, no one's going to know anyway, like a few friends have weddings and stuff. And, some of them had a bridezilla or one of them had a groomzilla. And it's like, no one's going to effing know about whatever little thing,
Well, and that was I used to have a sponsee that would go, okay, I left work at 5:30 and, we're supposed to leave at 5, but I stayed till 5:30, but some people stay till 6. And what do you think the people who stay till 6 are thinking about me leaving at 5:30? I was like, they're not thinking about you. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about their life and their family and what they're going to have for dinner and how late they're working. They're not really spending 2 hours thinking about you leaving at 5:30. You're doing that.
Yeah. That for me is the self-centeredness it talks about in 3, right? And then for me, humility is actually having a larger view of stuff where I'm not self-centered. I know myself, but I'm not self-centered. Does that make sense?
And that's where equanimity, and this is one of my big, my big marching orders for the rooms of the program is that equanimity, there has to be a sense of self-centeredness. It needs to be 50% of thinking about myself and how I show up, and then there needs to be 50% about others, and my God's in there 100%, right?
Yeah.
But there is a certain amount of selfishness and self-centered that it's our DNA, and it's that, and I have to do that. So I'm self-reflective, and I consider how I show up.
Yeah. And I don't consider that selfish and self-centered. I consider that about self-care and self-awareness.
Yeah, I think one of, like, I guess this has gone on to pet peeves, but there is certain pet peeves for me with sponsors who, tell women in the rooms, like, if you're not thinking about everyone else 24/7, you're selfish and self-centered,
Yeah. Yeah. Not true.
And that is not it.
Yeah. No, I definitely, for me, the polar, whatever the axis, the line across, it's like self-care, right? Self-awareness. And then on the other side is service.
Right.
And it's fine. Right. Everyone gets to find the median between those two and find their equanimity. And like, when I'm sick, I'm not doing service,
Yes,
like that's self-care. That's like asking for help. That's like what I'm doing. Right. And then, when I'm not like physically sick or, having a mental spiral, whatever, is I can, be of service or whatever. But actually, in my experience, all of it's actually service. Like, when I see someone, and we've talked about this, who is in self-care, who is self-aware, who has boundaries, that's like the best service ever, because it's like, oh, that's what that could look like.
Well, and yes, I love that. And part of that is that they're not thinking about how other people will perceive them.
Yeah.
They are just doing the next right thing, and they're in touch and accepting all of themselves.
Right. And I think that that's an important distinction, right? Is like our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. That's what it says in the book. For me, the distinction is like how we may help meet their needs versus how are they thinking of me? Like, that's a huge, you know what I mean? Like, that for me is the distinction. And, like we've shared, you've shared this in the past, it's stay sober. I stay sober first, right? And then help others to achieve sobriety. Like, that's the order.
Yeah. And it talks about, I love what somebody said a million years ago when they were talking about the 12th step, and they were saying, I don't know when I'm being of service to others, because they just do their program, and they go to the dry cleaner and treat them with respect, and they go to their meeting, and they show up in the workplace on time, and people do come up to them and ask them, like, what do you do? How do you get through life? Like, how do you do this? And so they're just living their life in a state of practicing the principles in all their affairs.
I love that. I love that.
Me too.
We are at our final 5. Do you have a question? Do you want me to ask a question?
It's yours. You go. Okay,
got it. So, what is something that, what is a difficulty that you've experienced in sobriety that is actually proven to be a blessing?
Whoa, that is good. Well, a difficulty I have experienced in sobriety is people calling me out on my selfishness, which, I just remember one time in early sobriety, and I may have mentioned this already, but it popped in my head again. So I would, after a meeting, like, just listen to where everybody was going to go grab a bite to eat. And then I would think about where's the best way that I could position myself to be around the people I most wanted to be around. And I would show up at that one. I got called out on it. And that calling out, I was so offended by, but at the same time, it helped me get a better sense of how I was showing up in the world and helped me give more thought to that. And since then, I've recognized somebody taking the time to give feedback that isn't wanted but necessary as a loving act, especially if it's done in the right way. Like, it's really loving. It says, I want to be here and I want to be in relation with you, and I'm willing to have a tough conversation with you. What about you?
Difficulty that's a blessing. I think, I was laid off a few months ago, and I think that it's actually been a blessing in the sense of, I was telling someone the other day, I was noticing it's like I was in a relationship for, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. It's all a blur. But when we broke up, when we consciously uncoupled, I realized that there was a slew of friends that I had not been into contact with because I was so consumed with my relationship. There was like the close friends that I was always in contact with. And then there was the greater group who I love and I missed. And I didn't realize how much I missed them until I was no longer in this relationship. And so what I'm realizing now is like, God, I was kind of isolated to a certain extent, like I moved back, and I, started just working. I wasn't doing in-person meetings because it was still like COVID times, kind of masked, and I rationalized like, I don't want to go to a meeting and watch somebody in a mask. I can't even see their fucking face. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll just multitask and take a shower and listen to your share. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, same.
So, and then I started going back. And then now that I don't have, there's that space now that was consumed with work and, thoughts about it and all this stuff. And now, as I'm trying to fill that in with a new possible career, I am also seeing like, oh, this has brought me close and in communication with a lot of people that I haven't been in contact with. And some of them I would have actually never reached out to if I wasn't in this position.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
beautiful.
it's a blessing where I'm now in more contact with more people than I've ever been.
I love that. That is beautiful.
Amen. Still have no idea what it's looking like, but please let this work out.
But you're talking to a lot of people.
We're talking and we're gonna please let this work out in a way that's best for everyone involved.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you just remind me. Yeah, it's thank you for this already working out in a way that's best for everyone involved.
Thank you, Misty.
Thank you, darling. And bitch, call your sponsor.
Your sponsor.
Call
Your sponsor.
Call
Your sponsor. Call you.
Bitch, call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Call.
New episode tomorrow. Send us an email, bcysponsor@gmail.com.